All right, welcome back to the podcast where we try to demystify the tech that's changing everything. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jenny. And Mark, you've been practically buzzing all week about this one. What secret sauce have you been cooking up for us today?
Oh man, Jenny. This is one of those topics that when I first heard about it, my jaw just kind of hit the floor. We're talking about something called probabilistic computing. And it's not quantum. It's not classical in the way we usually think. It's next level efficiency.
Probabilistic computing? Okay, the name already sounds like my morning commute. Full of uncertainty. But next level efficiency sounds promising given how much energy high-performance computing eats up. Like, my graphics card alone could power a small village.
Exactly. That's the perfect segue, because the core claim here, the one that makes you double take, is that these new probabilistic computers could be up to 100 million times more energy efficient than, say, an NVIDIA GPU. We're talking femtowatt operations here, Jenny. FEMTO watt.
100 million times? Femtowatts? Mark, my brain just did a little glitch. That's intense. How is that even remotely possible? What is this sorcery?
It's not sorcery, it's physics. So basically, our current computers, your GPUs, they're built on something called deterministic logic. Ones and zeros, precise changes, that cost energy every time a transistor flips from a 0 to a 1, or vice versa. Think about turning a light switch on and off thousands of times a second.
Right, lots of little switches all over the place, burning energy.
Now imagine if the light switch just inherently flickered, back and forth, on and off, on its own. These probabilistic computers, they use something called p-bits, P, for probabilistic. Unlike our rigid, power-hungry deterministic bits, p-bits are built with nanoscale magnetic tunnel junctions. They naturally fluctuate between states due to thermal energy at room temperature. They're making energy-negative computing almost a reality.
Wait, so they're intentionally leveraging noise or randomness that we usually try to eliminate? They're using the chaos?
Precisely. They take that inherent uncertainty, that natural fluctuation, and they use it as the feature, not a bug. It's like Richard Feynman, the famous physicist, suggested decades ago, building a computer that itself is probabilistic. Because so many real-world problems, like predicting weather, or financial markets, or finding the best route for delivery, they're inherently uncertain. They're probabilistic.
Okay, so instead of forcing an uncertain world into a rigid, deterministic computational model and trying to simulate the randomness, they built hardware that thrives on it. That's elegant. No wonder you're buzzing.
It is. And the benchmarks, Jenny. They've tested these on things like the Ising model, complicated optimization problems, and universities like MIT, Stanford, UC Santa Barbara. They're all showing these order of magnitude energy efficiency gains, 100 million times. Confirmed through things like calibrated calorimetry, traceable to NIST standards. This isn't just theoretical anymore, it's happening in labs.
Wow. So, energy consumption in computing is such a massive issue, especially with AI models growing exponentially. How might this energy-negative computing, as you called it, reshape AI's carbon footprint? Could deterministic computing become ethically unsustainable?
I think it almost has to. A lion's hunger for energy is only increasing, and for generative AI tasks, which are inherently about sampling probabilistic distributions, this is a perfect fit. Imagine running GPT-7 or future, far more complex models, locally on your phone, or in much smaller, lower-power data centers. It changes everything. It's a huge step towards truly sustainable AI.
That's a future I can get behind. But if we're embracing uncertainty, how does this stack up against quantum computing? Because that also deals with probabilities, right? Aren't qubits also about, like, being in multiple states at once?
Great question, and it's a common point of confusion. Quantum computers, with their qubits, operate at near absolute zero temperatures, millikelvin, colder than deep space. They leverage quantum phenomena like superposition and entanglement, where a qubit can be in multiple states simultaneously. And they're intrinsically linked. They're trying to achieve something fundamentally different, to solve problems that are almost impossible on classical computers due to their complexity. Scaling is exponential, but error correction overhead is huge.
So, extreme cold for quantum, room temperature chaos for probabilistic. Feels like two very different philosophies of computation.
It really is. Probabilistic computers use p-bits that fluctuate, But they're still based on classical physics, more or less, just exploiting different properties of it. They're immune to quantum decoherence, that fragility that plagues quantum computing, because they're not relying on those delicate quantum states. They have built-in statistical error tolerance, so instead of trying to make everything perfect, they average out the noise. They're kind of like the resilient older sibling to the sensitive genius quantum child.
Haha, I like that analogy. So, would you rather make computation colder or messier?
Oh, give me room temperature chaos any day. Cryogenic computing just sounds like, well, a lot of extra plumbing. Plus, manufacturing something that works at room temp is a lot easier already. These p-bits are already achieving automotive-grade reliability in testing. We're talking 10 years of continuous runtime with zero degradation. That's a major hurdle overcome.
Automotive grade? So, Mercedes-Benz is already working with this for things like traffic routing. My GPS can barely handle a traffic cone. That's impressive. What exactly are these thermodynamic branching computations?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. Imagine computation not as a series of precise, energy-intensive force operations, but as the system naturally settling into its lowest energy state, which happens to be the solution to your problem. Thermodynamic branching exploits entropy gradients, basically the natural tendency of things to go from order to disorder, or vice versa under certain conditions.
So the computer is just finding the path of least resistance, and that path is the answer?
Yes. And it does this by sampling the Boltzmann distribution, which describes the probability of a system being in a certain state based on its energy. This allows it to solve incredibly complex optimization problems, like protein folding or routing, by letting the system naturally anneal to the best solution. We've seen claims of it being 1,200 times faster than classical supercomputers for certain nitrogen monophosphide hard problems, essentially exploiting the physics of the universe to do the work instead of brute forcing it.
That's like the universe doing your homework for you. It's almost biological, in a way. Could these thermodynamic processors inspire biological computing or other new sciences?
Absolutely. It's already influencing fields like materials science for designing new alloys, or drug discovery where you're simulating molecular dynamics. It's essentially mimicking how nature often finds solutions. And it's not just theory. These experimental validations are showing that within a 12% variance, multiple university groups around the world are getting comparable benchmarks. Fabrication yields are above industry average too.
So we've got this efficiency, it's leveraging randomness, it's solving problems way faster, and it's robust. What's the timeline for us actually seeing this out in the wild? Are we talking decades, or is this coming sooner?
Sooner than you think, Jenny. The pilot programs with major cloud providers like Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud are launching late 2025. You won't be able to buy a p-bit chip right away for your home PC, but developers will start getting access to these environments. And the market analysis from places like Barclays is already projecting NVIDIA market disruption by 2027. That's a pretty aggressive timeline for a new compute paradigm.
2027? That's right around the corner, especially in tech years. And what about production? Are we making these in sufficient quantities yet?
Well, the U.S. Department of Energy announced loan guarantees totaling $18 billion in May 2024 to support the construction of new fabs in Arizona and Ohio, specifically for advanced semiconductor manufacturing, including this kind of technology. Production is targeting 2026. This isn't just a lab curiosity anymore. There's major national and economic backing behind it now. It's also about avoiding concentration risks with present supply chain dependence in Asian countries.
So governments are actively investing to bring this on shore. That brings up the supply chain issue, especially between the US and China. How should governments navigate those geopolitical risks while this tech is coming online?
It's a huge factor. The idea is to create a more resilient, geographically distributed manufacturing strategy. The pandemic showed us how fragile concentrated supply chains can be. So these investments are about national security and economic independence, as much as they are about technological advancement. It protects critical infrastructure and ensures redundancy. It's getting bipartisan support, which for a tech issue in Washington is pretty remarkable.
And what about the jobs side of it? When a tech like this comes along that could disrupt a massive industry like GPUs, will the job creation in these new fabs offset potential workforce displacement elsewhere?
That's always the challenge with disruptive tech. But the studies right now are actually quite positive for regional economies. The new fabs alone are projected to create 50,000 jobs, with broader economic impact studies projecting regional GDP boosts of over 30% in some areas. It's a focus on job creation, and reskilling programs will definitely be necessary. But in the long run, embracing new, more efficient computing paradigms is usually a net positive for innovation and economic growth.
It sounds like we're on the cusp of something quite significant here, Mark. Probabilistic computing. The beauty of uncertainty, indeed. Using noise as a feature. Leveraging Mother Nature's physics to do our heavy lifting. It's a fundamental shift.
It is, Jenny. And it's a shift that could fundamentally change everything from AI's carbon footprint to how we solve some of the world's most complex problems. It's the kind of tech that makes you excited about the future of computing again, even after all the buzz around quantum. This is just different, and potentially much more practical in the near term for so many applications.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Or, heard us talking passionately about it here first. Thank you, Mark, for another intriguing breakdown. And thank you, dear listener, for joining us on this journey into the future of computation.
Always a pleasure, Jenny. And it truly is a beautiful kind of uncertainty. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.